Hi everyone, my name is Shariz and in this video I will be telling you about a drug called cannabis. So basically, to start off, tell you that this drug is also called marijuana. It's an important fact. Some people use this word especially on internet websites. They call them as marijuana, and it is also smoking drugs. So they smoke this, and I'll also give you several important parts: their physical effects, social effects, emotional effects, spiritual effects, cognitive effects, legal effects, and economic effects. So those effects were the effects that the user might get in those ways after using cannabis. So first let's talk about the physical effects of cannabis. So basically, cannabis is smoking. So when a person smokes cannabis, the air that goes out can also come back in. So when it comes back in, and this affects and increases his heart rate, which can also lead to many cancers, and it can also cause some sort of redness to his eyes. Okay, so now let's move on to the social effects of cannabis. So here, as you can see with this image, that this person is depressed, he can't talk to anyone, he doesn't know what to do. So social basically means communicating with one another. So this can affect him in communication. By this, it can also it breaks his close relationships, and can also eventually cause family troubles. And yeah, so now let's talk about the emotional effects of cannabis. Okay, so now I'll tell you how cannabis can affect the user emotionally. So uh, so basically, what happens is when you take cannabis, it it has a strong effect to your brain. So brain is a place where you think, you do, you feel, things like that. So when this has a strong effect on the brain, it might not be let you think, and you might get frustrated. By this, you will cry and get emotion, and things like this can happen. You may panic as well. You may cry because of this. Okay, so now let's move on to the spiritual effects of marijuana or cannabis. Okay, so basically spiritual effects in cannabis. The thing that I have researched, and many people say that if you try experiment taking cannabis in the way of spiritually, then it's actually quite good. Like people do this experiment this for they do something called yoga. So when they do this, it keeps the mind relaxed. Remember, this is only when the person takes it for spiritual means, and he takes only a little bit of that. So like if you take so too much of that, and you get addicted, then I think it's quite bad for your health. As I told you before, if you take too much of it, it might affect your mentality, your brain, and it might also cause side effects, and it might also cause a few problems. But yeah, if you take it spiritually, it's quite good. It keeps your mind relaxed and cool. Yeah. So now let's move on to the cognitive effects of cannabis. Okay, so before me telling you the cognitive effects of cannabis, I would like to tell you about firstly the meaning of cognitive. Okay, so that you get a better understanding of it. So cognitive basically means something that is related to cognition, and cognition basically means that it learning, and it also affects our understanding, our intelligence. So as I had told you before, that in the spiritual things, that cannabis directly affects our brain. So it has a very bad and a hard impact on our brain. So when this affects your brain, it'll not help you with your learning and your understanding. And so these are the effects of cannabis when you're talking about the cognitive point of view. And this might well could eventually end up you not being able to get good career pathways, good jobs and good employment jobs. And this also by this it also can go back to depression and anxiety by not doing well, not learning proper things. So those were the cognitive effects of cannabis. Now let's move on to the legal effects of cannabis. So as I had told you in the beginning of this video that cannabis directly mainly affects our brain. So due to this affecting our brain, the user may not be able to get good learning or understanding of the things he does, things he feels, and by these actions he might not eventually end up in not getting good employment jobs. So this is why the government in few states, if you look at Australia or even America or any other countries, in few states they have not legalized. For example, in Australia, Sydney or New South Wales, they have not legalized cannabis, uh, but in Victoria, they have legalized because they think that cannabis is better than alcohol, which I think is true. So you can see that with the help of this image. So these are the differences between cannabis and alcohol. So you saw that how cannabis was better than alcohol. It had many positive things. So even though it has many positive things, I still think that as part of my research, I found out that the bad things and good things of in cannabis, so they're positive and negatives. So I had told you the negatives, so and you just saw the positives that it is better than alcohol. Um, so eventually we can conclude that in part of legalization point of view, we can say that cannabis well could be has a high percentage, like it could be um, legalized in the future. Okay, so now let's move on to our last part of this video. So now I will be telling you about the economic effects of cannabis to the user. So basically this really applies to the user because he is the one who goes to the shops and markets to buy the packets and packets of this cannabis. So basically cannabis is spoken. They use this in I think they use this in like cigarettes. Now I think you guys may be really like wondering whether how does this apply to the user. How will he be losing his economic value, his money? So like when he buys them, it's really expensive. It's like $150 for each packet, which I think is really expensive. And when he keeps on buying it and he uses them, and then eventually ends up in a hospital getting treatment, and he might spend money for that as well. So eventually he'll end up with having no money, and this will affect him really much. And um, yeah, and this will affect him economically. um, but I think to do this, the government is doing making profit. They're taking more money. Talk about money in this economic things. They make money, they treat patients, they earn themselves a good name, the government people I'm talking about. So this is the problem. And so these are the various effects of you can't I think you can't really tell this in not that much for economical effects of cannabis. But yeah, like if a person uses too much of it, it might affect them in various problems in future life. um Okay, so that ends my video. If you liked, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.